Hey everybody, Tracy Verdugo here. I want to give you a big welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for popping by. If you like what you see, please don't forget to subscribe. And today I want to give you a little gift. And the gift is a free tutorial that is from one of my more extensive online classes. And the class is called Abstract Mojo. So in this online course, there are more than 20 different themed videos to help you understand and create abstract and semi-abstract pieces with themes around nature. We'll look at recreating past works, we'll look at cropping, we'll look at using apps to abstract photos, so many things that I'm excited to share with you. But today I just wanted to give you one of those lessons for free so you can have a little taste of my teaching style. I'd love to hear what you think of the lesson afterwards, and I always love to read your comments down below, and also to see your work. You're invited to come over to my alumni class on Facebook, so I'll leave a link for that as well down in the description. But for now, please enjoy this free lesson and let me know what you think. Hey guys, welcome to week 1, lesson 4. And this is the day when I'm going to share with you an actual series, actually painting some works that I'm working on at the moment, part of my Sacred Waters series, which is inspired by the beautiful bay that we live in here in Jervis Bay. So lots of turquoises and browns and greens, little pops of orange and kind of some paler colors in there as well. And this is the palette of the beautiful place that we live in. So what I'm going to do as an illustration for you in this lesson is to talk about how we can use different shapes, letter shapes, and geometric shapes as an underpinning structure to help us build a really strong foundation for our abstract compositions. So there are many kind of underpinning structures that artists will use. And I've included an image in our classroom site which shows you some of the letters that can be used for this kind of compositional foundational tool. Today we'll be looking at L, U, and S. We'll also be looking at the letter T, which can also be seen as a cruciform shape. And then we'll be doing one small work also based on an irregular triangular shape as well. So it's a really fun lesson. As I mentioned earlier, this is the one where I'm showing you my own work that I'm putting out into the world. So let's keep this one to ourselves within the Facebook community. I can't wait to see what you guys do with it. Perhaps your color choices might come from where you live or something that's really inspiring to you. Looking forward to seeing you all in the classroom. Let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome to today's lesson. I'm excited to bring this one to you. We're going to be looking at using letters and shapes as compositional tools. And with this one, as I mentioned in the intro, this is a slightly different tutorial in that I'm actually sharing with you a body of work that I'm currently working on that's selling really well for me. And I just really wanted to give you a glimpse into the actual techniques that I'm using, step-by-step kind of process, what I'm going through in my mind as I'm creating these works. But because it is a personal series with this one, as I mentioned, I'll ask you to please take these techniques on board, play with them in your own studio, play with them in your own space, and then mix them up with everything else that we're doing, and perhaps even sit with them for a while until something new comes out, something that's unique, and something that is really true to your own voice. So this series began pretty much, I'm going to say probably about 5 years ago. We live in a beautiful bay called Jervis Bay, and we're surrounded by turquoise waters and bush that comes all the way down to the beach. And so the colours that I've chosen to work with in this series are all the teals and turquoises, the marine blues, the pops of green and antelope brown of the bush, the deep kind of Payne's grey contrast of the rocks, and some yellows and other browns as well. And always that pop of orange that I love to kind of add in at the last minute, particularly in this series. And so we're going to be using our Embracing the Contrast words as well, always having those close by so that we can think about what the next move might be. And we're working on a large sheet of watercolor paper once again. And this time I've divided it up just into 4. And I'm going to use just a very small array of tools, just a few flat brushes and a bamboo skewer, keeping it really simple this time. The series is kind of like a pared back version of some of the larger abstract works that I've done over the last few years. And I actually find it quite meditative and reflective and quite a calming way to work, rather than some of the more rambunctious and throw the paint at the paper works that we've done in the last couple of lessons. So feel free to use this same colour palette if you want to experiment with it, if it speaks to you, or see if you can come up with something from your own kind of bundle of inspiration, or from your own, I'm not sure, The first thing that we're going to do is just really lightly sketch in a few letter shapes into our boxes. There are quite a lot of different letters that you can use as a compositional tool. S is a very popular one, as it tends to kind of lead the eye into the piece, back out, but because of the curve leads the eye back in again. Then I'm going to lightly sketch in the letter T, and this is also referred to as a cruciform shape, compositional tool. And in the third box, we're going to sketch in a letter U. And I'm just using a watercolor pencil, any pencil will do. And then in the fourth box, I'm actually going to sketch in a triangular shape. So taking the points to 3 sides of the rectangle and just create that triangle so that the negative space around the triangle, the negative spaces around the triangle are all slightly different to each other. So as I approach this series, as I mentioned, I do feel quite reflective, and it's almost like I'm imagining the walks that I've taken on the beach, the shapes that I've seen in the sand made by the clams, the little squiggles on the scribbly gum trees. And I'm taking all of those visual memories and trying to find a way to translate them onto the page in front of me. And at the same time, I'm thinking about each mark that I make, and then the next mark being something that's a little contrasting to that one, whether it be in color, whether it be in its energy, whether it be in its form. And you can see I'm literally just doodling along the line of the letter. So we're starting with the S, using that little atomizer spray. Oftentimes, I love these inks because a little bit just goes so far, and even when you've finished the ink bottle, there's always a few drops left in the bottom, and so often I'll just mix those drops with some water and pop them into a little diffuser bottle. So just kind of making my way, feeling my way around that S shape and trying out different marks, different tools, thick lines, thin lines, splatter, scribble, dots, etc. smooth flowing line might be preceded by a circular scraping line, perhaps a little bit of water, a little bit of spray, bringing some flow, nudging up against a more defined area. Watch how the colours that you've chosen interact with each other. How does it feel when you allow some edges to be more defined and others to flow into the colour next to them? Remember that when you have a colour on your brush or on your tool, take a little time to kind of move that colour around the piece. Each time you do, using your tool in a slightly different manner. You can see that I'm veering off the letter shape here, and so we're not trying to create just a recognizable S. We're actually trying to break that up, and we're trying to create interesting negative spaces around the compositional tool. Coming in with a big hit of contrast here with the Payne's Grey. Doing something similar to the mark before, but because I'm using the dropper, it's a finer line than the teal line that went before it. Pulling out a little bit of that Payne's Grey ink with a wet, flat brush and allowing for some variation. In the depth of the colour. And you can see that I've now followed that organic kind of S shape all the way around, which has created quite a lovely underlying structure to what this piece will eventually become. Always looking for little opportunities to drag the wet ink out from one area and take it to another. We're working quite slowly. Teeny tiny details. Remember too that you can always use your paper towels to soak up some of the excess water and to add a different tonal quality to the colours that you have introduced to your piece. In comes that little pop of flame orange, which always makes me feel happy. moving on to our next compositional tool. And this time we're looking at the cruciform or the letter T. So just jumping in right at the top of that T, bringing in a swirl of green. Nudging up a little bit of Payne's grey and allowing the Payne's grey to mix in with the green. Always just staying in a state of open curiosity. Once you've used your embracing the contrast words many times, you'll start to see that it will become quite natural for you to just be aware of whatever the move that you've just made, whether it's a flowing move or a detailed move, and without thinking about it, you'll begin to know the next right thing to do. It'll just feel right for you to follow something that's kind of flowing and expansive with something that's kind of scratchy and detailed. Your brain will start to recognize, what is the thing that comes next? What's the contrasting element that I can add up against this other element that I've just created? Loving the way that those Payne's grey and the light green and the teal are working together. So beautiful. Bringing in a little bit of the atomizer, leftover orange ink mixed with water. Loosening up some of the line of the Payne's grey. Notice that I'm making one arm of the cruciform thicker than the other. And again, this is an attempt to create negative spaces around the form that are interesting and different and not uniform shaped. Water on my brush to tease out the ink . Taking flecks of orange from one area and adding them to another. Taking my time, not rushing. So remember that you always have the choice to lift as well. And when you're creating a piece of art, it's often just as important to think about what you're taking off as it is to think about what you're putting on. So when you're lifting an area of dense color, you're creating an opportunity to create a highlight. You could be lifting with a paper towel. You could be creating just a more subtle grade of colour. If you're working on board, you could be lifting with sandpaper. You could be lifting by rubbing back with baby wipes. All of these are valid ways to kind of pull back the paint and reveal something else underneath. Moving on to our next shape. I'm jumping in right at the base of the letter U. And as you move along with these works, you might start to recognize that there are particular color combos that really appeal to you as they work up against each other. For example, with this one, the teal and the Payne's grey, and I've used that in both of the other pieces. And so I recognize that makes me feel good when I do it. And so, those are the ways that you can kind of build your own catalogue of what kind of creative moves really feed your soul when you're painting. And it becomes easier then because you kind of know more and more what the next move is to make. I think after you do this exercise, it would be a fabulous thing to actually jump onto the Pinterest board that I have for abstraction, for Abstract Mojo, and see if you can actually find some abstract images that are using these underlying compositional tools and share them with the group. I think that would be really fun. Look how beautiful the teal is up against that complementary orange. Don't be afraid to allow colours to mix together. Teal and the orange creating a beautiful green. Moving there from curvy lines to straight. And just taking that teal for a little walk around the painting. Coming in now with a touch of beautiful shimmering blue from the pearlescent range of the Daler-Rowney inks. And because I've added that blue into the U shape, I'm just going to take a little bit and add it into the previous paintings as well. And this is something that will help give the entire series a feeling of belonging together. So you can see with this one that I've decided to take one end of the U shape all the way to the top of the page and then leave the other one dangling a little bit. Once again, the intention is to just create interesting and different and varied negative shapes around that compositional tool base. I love the way that this one's feeling like a little landscape to me at the moment. As you're watching this tutorial, I encourage you to think about landscapes of your own mind or memory or experience, whether it be the beach, the mountains, whether it be someplace that you've visited, doodles and patterns that you're drawn to, symbols that feel good to you, colors that resonate, and try them out using this kind of focused and contemplative way of working. Jumping into number 4, a triangular shape, starting with one corner of the triangle. Beginning with a really big pop of contrast on that page. Once again, nudging the teal up against the Payne's grey. Experiment with dropping in some of the pearlescent ink into the underlying still wet Payne's grey. Just so many beautiful ways to use these inks. And I can't stress enough how little you actually need to make an impact. Putting too much of the ink onto a page, you can see I'm dabbing it back there because I've actually, just with like 4 or 5 drops, it was too much in that area. And so if you apply too much ink, you're really just going to be wasting it. You're better off just adding a couple of drops, spraying it out, moving it around with water, and seeing how that feels on the paper. And you'll get this just beautiful kind of transparent quality that will be lost if you actually have too much of the ink applied. Tiniest of details make a difference. deciding to bring in a little bit of a pencil line with the watercolor pencil, and even using the pencil to kind of drag out some of the wet ink for a slightly different kind of mark. Taking my time, meandering, dotting, dabbing, just really exploring that underlying shape while not being bound completely by it. I think by replicating some of these works as a study tool for yourself, I'm hoping that it will help you to understand by actually physically making the moves a little bit more about perhaps the choices that I'm making in doing so. So I hope you've enjoyed this glimpse into my process and that you've had fun kind of painting along with me to this series, and that it's given you a little bit of insight into perhaps the thoughts that I'm having, where my inspiration comes from, why I'm making the marks that I'm making, and a little bit of how I'm actually thinking when I'm painting these little paintings. And I also would love to hear how you might be inspired to take some of the things you've learned from this lesson and kind of add them to what you are already creating yourself, and see if you can kind of blend a couple things together to come up with something new. So let's jump into week 2 and have some more fun. So I really hope that you enjoyed that little glimpse into my Abstract Mojo online course, and I would love to see you in the full course. Please hop on over to my website at tracyverdugo.com and just follow the online course tab down to Abstract Mojo, and you will find a description of the entire course there. So thanks for watching.